And House Democrats will soon pass a bill they say will boost American manufacturing, called the American Competes Act. But some Republicans have dubbed it the America Concedes Act because they say the effort would only help the Chinese Communist Party. China Task Force Chairman Michael McCaul is one of many Republicans withdrawing his support for the bill. But why is it losing bipartisan support in the House? NTD's Melina Wisecup reports.
House leadership is bringing to the floor the America Competes Act, and we heard from a group of House Democrats earlier who all say they're eager to see this bill passed, and it is likely to pass through the Democrat-controlled House. But it's not looking as bipartisan anymore. What was once started as a bipartisan effort in the Senate, when the Senate passed their version of it over the summer, is now drawing Republican pushback, at least from House Republican members, because they say many of the tough on China provisions have been stripped from the bill. That's why many of those House Republicans say they'll be voting no.
It threw out all the good stuff that we put in there to help counter China from a technology competitiveness, from an ability to stop cash flows into China.
The House bill invests in efforts to address climate change, working with China to, quote, develop and deploy clean energy generation technologies. However, there have been complaints that the raw material used to make solar panels in China have been made with forced labor. And the bill does try to crack down on this by imposing sanctions for human rights abuses in Xinjiang. So you're not confident that those sanctions on the Xinjiang region will be enforced?
I think they're creating a collision course between funding that will go to the very province where they commit genocide. That's where they create the green energy. And they're going to get around those provisions, maybe moving it to other places, but still using Uyghur Muslim population for forced labor.
But Republicans support some parts of the bill, like the CHIPS Act and investments in American innovation and technology. This is where both parties are on the same page.
That's going to relieve some of the supply chain pressures that we have, directly confront inflation, and ensure that American manufacturing can be competitive, that we can restore it, and that we can continue to lead in technology and innovation.
And it's got to go to the president. It matters to the country, every single provision in it.
So, Melina, from what we've heard today, Democrats are aiming to keep all pieces of this bill in the final version. How likely is that?
Well, Steve, this House version of the bill that is expected to pass, we will see some changes in this bill because after it passes, the members from the Senate and the House will come together in a conference and make changes to the bill, reconcile the differences between the two bills. So the question is, after those changes are made, will those changes be solid enough for Republicans, solid enough in the Republicans' demands for them to vote yes on it in the Senate and get it to Biden's desk? So that's something we'll be looking at throughout the next week or so, and we'll keep you updated once we know if there's enough Republican support to get this to Biden's desk. Steve, back to you.
And House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer announced on Tuesday that he has tested positive for the CCP virus and will be voting by proxy. The Democrat congressman from Maryland said he experienced mild symptoms and tested positive for the virus. The congressman is 82 years old. Hoyer said he'll be working from home and voting by proxy during his quarantine. Congress proxy voting was approved in May 2020 and challenged by House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who called it a patently unconstitutional practice. The Supreme Court on January 24th declined to take up the challenge. The FBI is urging Olympic athletes to leave their personal phones at home while at the 2022 Winter Games in Beijing. The FBI issued a warning to U.S. Olympic athletes that their phones are vulnerable to malicious cyber activities. The notice sent by the Bureau urged athletes to use temporary phones while in Beijing. People attending the Olympics will be required by the CCP to download an app it claims to be for COVID monitoring purposes. The FBI looked into the app and issued a report saying that it did not protect personal data and that it allowed a third party to access data on the phone. Senator Rick Scott today also weighed in on the CCP's human rights abuses. He said now with the Olympics opening ceremonies this Friday, it's the perfect time to shed light on the Communist Party's true nature.
We use this time every day we can to try to shed the light on exactly who the Chinese Communist Party is. This is our perfect opportunity to raise our voices in support of the Hong Kongers, freedom movements, and to stand in solidarity with those who are in jail because they use their voice to support democracy.
According to Bloomberg, over 1,500 Hong Kong civilian jobs have been lost under the national security law. More than 60 organizations were disbanded just over this past year alone. A memorial was held today in Baltimore in honor of 3 firefighters who died battling a blaze that started when a vacant row home partially collapsed last week. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan described the firefighters as heroes.
On behalf of all of the people of Maryland, as we pay tribute to the life and the legacy of 3 of our true heroes.
Federal authorities are still seeking a person of interest who was captured on video surveillance. The reward has grown to $100,000 for any information leading to the identity of that person. After 18 months of searching and evaluation, the Washington football team, once known as the Washington Redskins, has announced its new name.
Today's a big day for our team, our fans, a day in which we embark on a new chapter as the Washington Commanders.
Our new uniform.
All right.
Ta-da!
With the new name of Washington Commanders, the NFL franchise is using a naval term, making a connection to DC's military history. The team's Twitter account also showed its new name, logo, and uniform on Wednesday morning. Established in Boston in 1932, the team has changed its name several times. The decision to rebrand happened during the summer of 2020 after the death of George Floyd and the social unrest that followed. Mounting pressure from team sponsors helped force the decision.